And if you don't know, now you know.
Yes, peeps, welcome back to the Rat Cave. It's Ratzi here with another Now You Know video, which is a video series of like tips and tricks and the stuff which sometimes gets a little bit looked over when it comes to DJing. So today's video is called Know Your Cables. So what I'm going to teach you in this video is all of your inputs and outputs on your typical DJ controllers and mixers and CDJs and stuff like that. And I'm going to be using the brand new Pioneer DJ XDJ RX3 controller to talk you through all of these inputs and outputs because, hey, this thing has got absolutely all of them. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. All right then, the master outs. So this is where you attach your controller to your speakers for everyone to hear in the crowd. It's called an output because the audio is coming out from the controller here into the speakers. So on the other end of these cables, that would be plugged into the input of the speakers that you're using. And this would be labeled on whatever speakers or amp that you're being plugged into. So on this particular controller, you've actually got two master out options. This one here is the XLR output. This is what you see on the kind of high-end controllers and the high-end mixers. It's male on the controller and female on the cable. Male cables have sticky out bits, so like this, and female cables have got the holes for the male cables to plug into. So if I have to explain that to you any further, you're probably too young to be watching this video. Anyway, XLR is, in my opinion, the best option to go for, so I would recommend using it as your main output whenever you can. Now then, next along here this is called an RCA. If you're using a smaller entry-level controller, then this may be the only output that you have. And this is the same cable that you use for line inputs, which I'll show you in a minute. So make sure that you've got it in the right holes. Giggity. So if your controller has only got an RCA output, it's this white and red cable here. So then normally your speakers will have this input as well. So you'll need an RCA to RCA. Or if your speakers have got XLR, then you'll need RCA to XLR, etc, etc. Now then, over here to the booth output. This is another output that you can use to connect extra speakers just for the DJ booth. So if the main speakers are far away from the booth or there's lots of echo in the hall that you're DJing in or whatever, it's tough to mix the tunes together. So this booth output is normally one of these 1/4" TRS jack cables. And normally the other end will go into a monitor speaker. So again, as I've said before, if this is your booth output from your controller, then the other end of this cable will have to be whichever input your speaker has. So it could be an RCA or it could be an XLR. So you'll have to get 1/4" TRS to RCA or 1/4" TRS to XLR, or even a 1/4" TRS jack to another 1/4" TRS jack. So normally the other end goes into a monitor speaker. And if a controller or mixer has this booth output, you get another specific volume control just for the booth so that you can turn the volume of the monitor speaker up or down without changing the main master output that your crowd is hearing. You still with me? Okay, good. Let's move on to inputs. Now then, this is the USB input. So you'll see one of these on any controller or mixer that plugs into a laptop to use DJ software. Some mixers have actually got two USB inputs for easy swap overs between DJs using different laptops. Anyway, the cable needed here is a USB-A to USB-B cable. So the input to the controller, which is this one, is a USB-B, and then the input that goes into your laptop is the USB-A, which is this one here. So now then onto the channel inputs. So on this controller, we have both phono and line inputs. Phono is for a turntable and line is for a media player or CDJ. The difference between the two is that the phono is an analog signal and this line is a digital. So if you get these round the wrong way, the audio is going to sound terrible. So again, the line input is this red and white RCA cable, and the phono looks pretty much exactly the same. In this case, my turntable's phono cable is slightly different, which helps me not to put it in the wrong input, which is a touch. Speaking of which, don't get this line in muddled up with the line output that I showed you earlier, or you'll be wondering why there's no sound coming out of your speakers. And on that note, if your turntable has got one, you should plug in your grounding cable into the controller or mixer as well, which looks like this. So that will be on one end of your turntable screwed in, and then the other end screws into the grounding input under here. So what that will do is it will get you the best sound out of your turntable because it will reduce any hum. So this here is the second channel input, which is exactly the same deal as what I've just told you. It's just for the other channel of the mixer. But if we go over to here, this particular controller has got two aux ins. Now the aux input works in the same way as the line input that I've just shown you, but normally you only get volume control and that's it. So no volume fader or EQ or anything. And because of this, it's normally just used to play music rather than actually mix the music together. So like plugging in a phone into your controller to play the tunes, or a CD player or something like that. As you can see here, the first aux cable on this controller is again this white and red RCA input. Now this particular RCA cable does look a little bit different, but it's exactly the same as the other one I showed you, it's just a different design. So to plug your phone into this aux, you'll need an RCA to 3.5mm, like this. So this is a 3.5mm TRS jack cable, and it's the same as a mini headphone jack. But don't forget to get the correct adapter for your phone or tablet or whatever if the output isn't the same as this one. So you can plug this end into your device, which is playing the tunes. Funnily enough, on this controller, the other aux input is actually a 3.5mm jack. So if your controller's aux input looks like this, then you'll need a 3.5mm jack like this one into another 3.5mm jack cable. So it will look the same on both ends, or a 3.5mm jack to whatever output the device has that you're trying to plug in. Now, finally, these are the microphone inputs. So these are normally XLR, which is the cable that I showed you right at the start as the main output, one of these. But of course it's the opposite way round, as this is an input rather than the output like the master was. So it's XLR male into the controller like this one, and then the other end of this cable will be XLR female like this one to plug into the microphone. So actually, as a bonus here on this particular controller, these are combi microphone inputs, which means if you look here, they take both XLR and 1/4" jack. So the 1/4" jack slides straight in there, as does the XLR. So if you have a microphone that has either of these cables, you're winning. And it's also worth mentioning that at some entry-level controllers, the microphone inputs are the 3.5mm jack that I showed you before, this one here. There you have it then, gang. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Please post any questions in the comments of this video. Also drop in the comment section of any videos that you would like me to do along this Now You Know series of sort of questions that you have of, you know, these sort of little bits and bobs that sometimes get overlooked. So as usual, don't forget to like the video, share it to someone that this may come in use for, and also subscribe to the DJKit YouTube page. So until next time, guys, you take care. And if you don't know, now you know. Peace.
And if you don't know, now you know.